Good morning, everybody here in the world. I am, of course, Dom, and joined as always with me on these Friday mornings is none other than one of my favorite people in the world, the host of the Epic Marvel podcast, and that is Kurtis. How are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing well, Dom. Thanks for having me here again. Also, one of my favorite people. It's great to see you so active in the community. Your interviews are doing really well. You've getting some really good people on your show.
Oh, Bill, I appreciate it. Honestly, I just find it to be a big honor to be able to, talk to people who whose works that I love for even at an hour at a time. It's always an honor to get a chance to talk with them about comics and also share the love with as many people as possible. Just so many, I think, inspirational people creating cool stories, cool art out there, and we get to talk about that a little bit today because we got three cool DC Finest collections that I know that we can't wait to get into. And yeah, we're also grateful for all of those in the chat. Also happy to be here today. We got Justin the 90s fan. Welcome back. Hey, guy, this is going to be good. We also can't wait to talk about that DC goodness, Xbox by Degrees. Kurtis was actually so kind to do really, really cool graphics design work on those specific collections. We got 16 is the tally and count for all of those.
Yeah, that's right.
Yep. So big stuff here today. Ultra Mega Nicola, okay. Good to see you. And yes, smash that like button. I keep forgetting to get people to do that. But yes, indeed, smash the like button as well. Partworks Comics Reader says, not sure if I've already started Green Arrow last stream, but finished that. Have read JSA, JLA, Catwoman, and Harley in those few weeks. Busy time on Finest. Continuing on, Justin says, my Winter Soldier Marvel Premiere collection arrived today. So did Batman Year 1 and Year 2 DC Finest. Also glad, yeah, they're doing a lot of cool stuff with the early Wonder Woman and early Batman too. So yes, we will talk about that later in the stream. And also a good morning to James as well. Jason
James.
Mill. Jason Mill 604 says, morning guys. Always look forward to the stream every month. Suicide Squad is a classic, and I'm expecting my copy of Team Ups this weekend. Completely agreed there on that. And I completely agreed there on the Suicide Squad. Let's see. Speedy Hen showing Suicide Squad Team Ups in stock. Plastic Man unavailable, so went with the next cheapest UK option. Fitting on that. And I don't know if you also saw, Kurtis, but there is a DC omnibus of the Jimmy Palmiotti and Justin Gray All-Star Western that is coming out at some point in the near future. So, yeah.
Great. I I think that if that book sells well, then we'll see it appear in other formats not too long after that.
I think we will as well. Next to see. Static skipping, going the milestone compendiums route, which is completely understandable on
That
the
makes sense.
front. Batman, good to see you this morning. Hello to you. Hello to you. Let's see. One sec. Is this? Oh, yeah, seems like we're good on that front. I know that was an issue in the first couple of months, but I think we nailed that down after. Good to see you, Carson. Good morning, good morning. And of course, yes, you can find Kurtis and all the fine folks in his community on Facebook. Thank you, James, for the links. Here is a link to Kurtis's Epic channel as well. GK Ultra, good morning to you. Hopefully you are doing well. Still love the Dan Moore Nightwing PFP as always. And then of course most of the new DC Finest collections are on the spreadsheet. I still have yet to add the Batman and Wonder Woman ones because I was busy preparing for this show this morning, but they will be up at some point later. And of course you can join our Patreon if you guys want to have a watch list added along with that. Yeah, looking forward to Peacemaker. I know we're looking forward to that next month as well. Excited for all of that. In fact, yes, We are Kurtis's finest. Oh my gosh, that is cute. And yeah, DC I think is doing a really really good job. I know that I don't know how you felt, Curtis, but I was like partly scared that like after July we weren't going to be getting any more finest, but it's clear now. I think like that's not the case at all. It seems like DC is 100% all in, no pun intended, with their entire line.
Yeah, those. Do we want to talk about the announcements now or talk about them after?
I think we could talk about them after because I want to get into the. I
Okay.
have a lot of stuff to talk about with team ups and the suicide. But go ahead, sorry.
No, no, no. I was just going to jump into things about the new announcements, but I think we should save that for after. Let's get on with our current releases because I know a lot of people also will want to talk about the upcoming stuff as well.
Indeed.
Okay.
But yes, the first book that we do have here is the original Plastic Man comics from Police Comics back in the 1940s, along with the first handful of issues of Plastic Man. Plastic Man 1 through 2 and Police Comics 1 through 36, or at least the Plastic Man stories in those anthology comics are collected in here as well.
So this is an interesting book because it is one that didn't originally start at DC. It's a property that DC has acquired over time. Police Comics is where Plastic Man started, and this was, I believe, their first foray, maybe their only foray into the superhero world. Um, it was all police themed stuff, and even this one is kind of police themed as well, because Plastic Man, he was a mob, like a gangster, and he teams up with the police a lot in these comics to try and figure out what's going on. And so it kind of keeps the theme a little bit, but they are definitely trying to capitalize on the popularity of Batman and Superman that had come just not just a few years earlier, in fact. So eventually DC acquired this property, and this makes Plastic Man one of the oldest DC characters, debuting in 1941.
Yeah, I found this super interesting. I was reading up on interviews that Cole and some other people had because I was legitimately curious about quality comics and the early period of national comics publications before became DC. And I found out that Jack Cole was also apparently because Spirit is also part of some of the quality comics line, Will Eisner's Spirit. And one thing that I found was Jack Cole helped Will Eisner create the character, but he was never properly credited in helping, which I found really interesting, especially with the whole conversation on creators' rights and whatnot. And yeah, it was apparently like in 1940, right before Police Comics started in 1941, that he helped him on that character before obviously getting the jump to do the Plastic Man stories in Police Comics.
Yeah, Jack Cole was an assistant for Will Eisner on the Spirit, and in fact was a ghost artist for Will when Will had was drafted in, or not. I don't know if he was drafted or volunteered for to do some work with the army. And so um, there's a lot of the Spirit in here. In fact, Spirit was one of the segments in Police Comics. And there are a couple of covers in this collection where the Spirit is supposed to be on the cover, but they've removed the character from the cover because DC doesn't have the license for the Spirit character. They don't own that character. Um, and you can tell throughout this book that Jack Cole worked with Will Eisner because there is incredible influence. The way they tell the story, the way he draws, the way he sets up his panels, the jokes, the noir shading to it, like everything in here screams the Spirit. So, and I've never read this stuff before, so and I didn't know that that was the case. So when I'm reading this, I was so surprised because I've definitely read the Spirit through a lot of the Spirit archives that DC published a number of years ago. There is so much influence here, and that makes this stuff really enjoyable for me at least because I really like the spirit. I think Will Eisner is just amazing, and to see a lot of that kind of trickle over to these early issues of Plastic Man, like it has a lot of the same humor and everything. It's absolutely fantastic. I love it. Um, these the issues start because he's just a segment in the character in the full issues, and so his stories are only like 6 pages long. They're not long at all. So in order to make the most out of those 6 pages, we get a lot of um, we get a lot of panels, we get a lot of dialogue, and it's all crammed into a few pages. So if you look at this video that we're showing here, you'll often get at a very minimum 8 panels per page, sometimes even more. And then as Plastic Man's popularity soars, they give him more pages for his stories. Like it goes to 10 pages, I think, and then he gets to 12 pages, um, and then he gets his own title eventually. And as you flip through this book, you'll see the pages have fewer and fewer panels because now he has room to breathe and he has room to tell his story in a much better way. So it's neat to see that evolution all in the 600 pages that are here because it's quite a transformation that this book goes through. Personally, I think I like the artwork of the earlier pages better. He goes into more detail. He doesn't lean into the cartoony side nearly as much. But if you turn to like the 500 page mark, somewhere around there, he gets much more sparse with his backgrounds and much more just um, streamlined with the way he draws his characters. And I don't think it's as good, but the writing I like a little bit better.
That's fair. My experience with this is kind of twofold because when I was living back in the Philippines, my dad had shown me some of the Popeye stuff that he grew up with, and a lot of this material reminded me of Popeye the Sailor, just in the way that
Yeah.
the cartoons look, in the just like I feel like there was like inspiration there to be had specifically in this book. And young old me, because like I never had read this before, but what I felt like reading through this was playing some of those Lego Batman video games that had Plastic Man in them. And he would do like the most obnoxious things in those Lego video games, like the way he stretches, some of the things that he
Yeah.
turns into, whether it's a ball or he's like scrumpled up, or it's like, oh, his arms are extended. But he would always do that in the video games, and I thought like they're taking a lot of that out. Specifically, from this trade paperback over to there. Um,
Yeah.
and I just find it so interesting, especially with the first story, because like some of those pages, like you mentioned, like they're 15 to 16 panels worth of story that's all cramped in there. But I never had a moment where I was just like it felt too much, because I just felt like Jack had enough to do in those 16 panels, whether it's a regular talking head, some of the text bubbles, like being different, whether they're purple, red, or yellow. I thought that was super cool to see, versus something like we saw in Superman. But I really, really did enjoy the vibe of this specific comic in particular, and also some of the people that he has to face when he's hiding as Eel O'Brien, and then next thing you know, it's like, oh, like, I'm here to stop you. So completely agreed with you there on all the fronts.
One of my favorite stories, I think, in here is the one where um, they where Jack Cole is a character in the story. Let me see if I can't remember which one that is. Um, Plastic Man or Police Comics number 20,
Hmm.
page 198. Jack Cole is a character in the comic, and the way he portrays himself is really funny. And I like that comic how everything's kind of outlined in a black border,
Mm-hmm.
and like all of the gutter space in between the panels is black, and he plays around with the panels are kind of off kilter and such, and that I think is the kind of the turning point for this title when it went from much more spirit influenced to kind of getting a little bit more of a name for itself. Um, but yeah, I like that story. And then there's another one where all of the it's like a murder mystery, and everybody's a suspect,
Hmm.
and everybody has a reason to have done it, and you don't figure out who it is till the very end. And I won't say the spoiler at the very end because it's actually pretty funny. But that I like that story a lot too.
They're not bad. No, I completely agreed on the 20 or issue 20, just using the black sort of background and silhouette just so he can move around with whatever the panels are, whether they're regular circles. Sometimes it's the person that he's fighting like being tied up in rope, and they're just like the regular like oh no like they're action bubbles. Completely agreed there. I think my favorite from this specific book in particular, I think it's issue 23 or 24, where plastic there's another plastic man that's just like out on the loose, like there's like two or three plastic man out there because somebody cloned him, like there was a doctor who cloned him, and you as a reader are just like stuck figuring out like is this the real plastic man, because they look completely identical. I'm not gonna spoil how we figure out like who the real one is and who the real one isn't. But I just really like some of those like detective stories where like you're just stuck trying to figure out the puzzle as Plastic Man is also trying to figure out the puzzle as well. I think there's definitely I think something to be enjoyed in here. Like if you're a fan of the like Sunday newspaper comic strips, or just want some like 40s, like some of the older vibes of this specific era of comics. I think there's something to be enjoyed in this particular book.
Yep. Yep, absolutely. Yeah, this is a lot of fun. It's very mature in its storytelling, and the humor is interesting as well because I was expecting my only real exposure to Plastic Man before this is his appearances in the Batman Brave and the Bold cartoon,
Hmm.
and also the Kyle Baker series.
Hmm.
And he's very much a slapstick, off the wall, zany kind of character, right?
Hmm.
But he's not actually that way in these early comics. He's not off the wall zany. He stretches, but a lot of the humor comes from the dialogue and such. He doesn't stretch to be funny. And I was very surprised at that. It was a very different type of humor than I was expecting. Like I said, the humor borrows a lot um, from um, from the spirit, where the characters themselves are serious, but there's a lot of visual gags, visual comedy. There's one story in here where there's this guy that has no body, so
Hmm.
he's just a head with arms and legs that stick out of his neck, and that's the kind of humor that this is. Uh, it's that kind of thing. So that it's just a weird character.
No, it definitely is
I
for
like.
sure.
Yep.
Because I was expecting to laugh in like a different, like sort of the modern humor that we get in a lot of comics, where it's like maybe it's a character doing like something stupid, or maybe it's just an artist doing a visual gag and you're laughing at that. But here, like you said, it's a lot more. Maybe it's something. Sometimes the characters are saying something, you're supposed to laugh at that, or just the way that like he integrates it. I think is pretty. It's pretty hilarious, and it I had to like adjust myself to figure out like where those humorous spots were,
Yep.
because again like I it's just a different time, and I think Jack Cole was looking at the bouts of humor a lot differently than a lot of comic book creators are. Like the humor I expect nowadays, I'm reading a Kelly Thompson um, Jeff book, and the humor there is a lot different than I would say the humor in here is. um, but I think once you find like that sweet spot, I do think it does lend to a pretty fun and enjoyable read. Also, like makes me remember of the issue where how do I describe it? It's like Plastic Man or E.L. O'Brien or whatever is trying to figure out like what's going on with somebody who like is getting married, um, and then the person who like like is trying to get to marry, like, or the person who proposed to her is like, oh, like I don't know if I want to marry you because like you're not type like my type of girl. And then they figure out, oh, maybe like, and then she says yes eventually because of like pressure or whatever. um Sometimes like I had to like it was hard for me to find the bits in those because there is also some 1940s language in here. I think that's a little bit outdated. I think that's another thing that I can definitely say about this book, where it's like, I definitely would not be calling people that if I
Yeah,
was in this
yeah, and
time.
there's some stereotypes in the way people are depicted. In the first few issues, I think we get through every
Hmm.
um, ethnic stereotype uh, possible
Hmm.
in
And
the first few issues.
yep,
They're all there,
yep. The gender
and
stereotypes are a lot there too. I would also say, like,
yeah,
yeah.
very much so. Yeah, I mean, this is the 1940s, and they didn't have the same sensibilities as we do now. So they put a little warning at the beginning in the table of contents to let people know that there is this content here. It's kind of hidden and almost in the gutter, so you'll miss it. Blink and you miss it, but it's all there. Um, yeah, yeah, no, I like this too. I think Woozy Winks is a good addition to the cast. He's he's where a lot of the humor comes out,
Hmm.
and I think the stories improve actually, um, not because he's there, but once he is there, I think the stories improve.
Because it's another person I
Um,
think to like play off of with
yeah,
yeah with Eel, which does make for lighter reads. But yeah, I think like I said earlier, like once I think you get in the groove of sort of like how these 1940s issues are structured, it becomes a really really enjoyable read. And I found a lot of this to also be a little bit stronger than the early Action Comics issues that we had read earlier, just because I
yeah,
do think it's a they like Jack Cole knew what he was aiming for. Whereas I know that like with Jerry and Joe, they had something that they wanted to aim for, but because they were still in infancy and trying to figure everything out, it wasn't just as pronounced as everything is in here. Um, so that those are my overall feelings on
yeah.
1940s Plastic Man. Um, yeah, fifth. Hey, comic pages says they have. If I can pull up, I don't know why it's there. We go. I have 15 of the ones so far. Hey, you know what? Which ones are you missing, comic pages, if I may ask? Um, I'll talk to you at the end of the show, Carson. Shoot us an email, and I can help you out there. Let me see if I is the plastic. Yeah, we talked about it a little bit. They also go into it in the comment section. Yeah, a couple of the doctored covers had to remove images of the spirit because DC does not have the rights to the character at that point. Um, and another interesting note from Phil, Quality Comics also started some heroes in various titles, including Black Hawk, Kid Eternity, and a bunch of others, which I do find interesting.
Okay, great. Yeah, I need to learn more about quality comics.
I need to read more interviews from that time period. Yeah, clones were a very advanced subject in the 40s. Definitely not
Yeah,
as pronounced as they are now. I know that with Wolverine and Spider-Man, I think we have definitely gotten to a point where they have become a major part in a lot of plot points
yeah.
nowadays. Um, hello, to you, Richard. I hope you're doing well as well, man. Thank you for joining us this morning. We really, really appreciate it. Um, Ultra Mega Niccolo K says, I'm enjoying the Plastic Man comics, but at times it's really, really, really odd. The story with the scientist who dies and his brain gets transplanted before using his research to become a giant feels like the work of someone who on something a little stronger than booze.
Yep, and I think that Jack Cole was just kind of a tortured person in general, and he eventually killed himself at an early age.
Hmm.
So I think there was a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes, and a lot of that stuff probably influenced his work, and a lot of that stuff just contributed to his demise, unfortunately.
Yeah, it is what. Yeah, it is unfortunate because I was, believe it or not, I was talking to Jess a couple of weeks ago. We called. I can't remember. It was for something, and I mentioned to him like I was really enjoying a lot of the Plastic Man issues, and that's who I like found out from. Like apparently, like Jack Cole passed away super early because of ongoing stuff in his life. But he also recommended a book to me that I don't remember the complete name of. He sent me a link to it, but it details. It's I think it's by Chip Kidd. It's by Chip Kidd and a couple of other people on the makings of Plastic Man and the way that comics were structured, specifically in police comics and early quality comics stories and issues. And I thought that was just like super interesting to see that Yeah, maybe yeah, like inspiration from a lot of people. Like the whole idea of write what you know. I do feel like Jack Cole is writing a lot of what he's feeling about the world in the comics he's writing.
But I thought you were going to say he knows a lot about cloning.
Who knows, right? We could have a
Yeah,
billion.
maybe he did.
Maybe he did. Maybe he did indeed. But yeah, one quick thing. It's going to be there in material from time to time. I'd rather have it as an artifact than have to deal with censored stories. Completely agreed there.
I mean, that depends on how it's packaged and who its target audience is. If
Mhm.
they're presenting this material to children,
Oh, that's yeah.
um, then I think they need to pick their stories carefully and maybe edit them if they need to,
Mhm.
because it's not like their parent is going to be sitting, well, some of them will be, but not everybody's
Mhm.
parent is going to be sitting beside them
Mhm.
saying, okay, well, this, I'm going to put this in a proper historical context for you in the 1940s, 80
Right. Right.
years ago. Um, but a collection like this is not
Mhm.
catered or is not targeted towards children, so it's fine to leave it as is.
And they do, like you said in the notes, and not just this Plastic Man book, but all of the ones that were published or have published material before Crisis on Infinite Earths, they do mention that these stories were written in a particular different point of time when society was different and people viewed society as differently as we do today. Um, I can't imagine like giving a kid a book, right? Like, one of these issues where somebody calls a woman a W word that I don't want to say on stream, because we just don't use that word to describe people like that nowadays. Um, and so I don't think I disagree with you there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, Atomic Hound says, good morning and hello to you, my friend. I hope you are doing well indeed. Um, And let's see. But yeah, I think that's all of the thoughts that I have at least right now on Plastic Man. I can't think of anything else that I want to bring up because yeah, a lot of my experience being brand new, a lot of the 1940s stuff I just haven't touched. I've heard about it, but I haven't touched. But good stuff and something that I would definitely recommend to people if you were
Yep.
interested.
I'm hoping that we can get a follow-up volume to this really soon. I also don't know anything about Plastic Man in other eras, so I don't know if he had other titles through the Silver Age or the Bronze Age. But it would be fine to, I would be okay with skipping around to see something a little bit more modern, see where this character goes.
Mm-hmm.
And if they want to do a DC Finest of that Kyle Baker stuff, I would
Mm-hmm.
be a-okay with that. I know there's some collections of that stuff out already, but I want to see it in DC Finest form.
I would be too. And to end on that note, really like where he shines or like gets his proper introduction to hey, I'm a DC character is in the 19 late 1990s early 2000s JLA run with Grant Morrison and Mark Waid. Mark Waid uses him a lot in the early issues of JLA. There is I will just say there is an infamous panel with him and Big Barda, and that is all I will lay out. And you will have
Yes, I know about that. I think someone mentioned that in the chat already as well.
yeah, so hey, what we'd man, I hope we get to talk to Mark again like sometime soon. Considering how many of we have like of these now and being able to experience that in the first time, because I know he loves Plastic Man and a lot of the Golden Age stuff, obviously, because that's the stuff he grew up with. So
Yeah.
considering that, yeah, that is Plastic Man, the origin of Plastic Man, the guy who fell in a vat of chemicals and manages to stretch beyond the wildest proportions. But that is also beset by the fact we also have the Suicide Squad book, which does contain more than I thought it would originally. This also contains the Legends issues, and if I can read from the back here, just to make sure that I have everything set correctly, this specific collection collects Legends 1 through 6. Secret Origins 14 and the first 10 issues of Suicide Squad, along with Detective Comics 582, Fury of Firestorm, 62 to 64, Firestorm Annual number 5, and Pages from Millennium number 4. Again, just super, super surprised that they threw that all in there, but I'm really happy because They have never previously collected Legends along with Suicide Squad. The collections that DC used to have with the Suicide Squad, at least from the Ostrander era, they would always just have like the first couple of issues, maybe a crossover here and there, but they had never collected Legends along with that, which I'm actually very happy by. And yeah, let's go ahead and talk about it if we may.
So I'm glad that they put these in here because obviously it's the origin of this iteration of Suicide Squad. This is very much a starting point or a jumping on point for anybody interested in these characters. Suicide Squad before this looked very different than this era. This era, I think, really brings them into the superhero world. As far as I know, because I have the old Suicide Squad trade paperback, like the Silver Age Suicide Squad trade paperback. And I've read some of that, and I was like, this is not what I was expecting at all. And so this book is what I was expecting, and I didn't realize that there's two very distinct eras
Mm-hmm.
to this team. Um, after the Legends miniseries, there's a Secret Origins issue, which helps bridge the gap between those two eras, and it really helps. It helped me a lot understand the purpose of the old team versus the purpose of the new team and how they relate to each other. So I was very thankful for that issue right there. Um, Legends, I thought was what I can understand also why it's not collected with Suicide Squad,
Mm-hmm.
even if it's their origin. They're not actually in it that much, and they don't actually really have anything to do with the overall plot. They're kind of just there. They don't they don't make things better for the superheroes that are affected. They're just kind of there. I'm not exactly sure why that they were right in here. Um, it mixed in with the story, except for the fact that maybe this is what John Ostrander had. He had a vision for this new team, and this was the perfect way to launch it, was piggybacking it on top of a book that had Superman and Batman in it.
I think on top of that too, this is my overall thoughts on Legends are I think it's a fine story, but if you want this is I honestly I think the Legends sort of like event with all the crossovers and tie-ins I think lends itself well to a new reader because they are the introductions. You get to see the introduction to somebody like a Billy Batson. You get to see that with the Suicide Squad. You get to like they have walls of text explaining like who these characters are, and if it's not walls of text, it's usually another character somebody spout like the Phantom Stranger said someone saying like, hey, this is who this character is, this is what they do in the DC universe. So I think for any new reader trying to get into the DC universe, I think it lends itself perfectly. Like it would have been cool to see maybe a Legends DC Finest or something like that. And I understand it like packaged in here because Suicide Squad will sometimes reference like, hey, you remember when we fought Brimstone? Remember when we did this or we did that? And they reference
Yeah.
Legends. But other than that, you are right in that like it doesn't really have a big. There's no like plot thread in Legends where it moves over to Suicide Squad. They just more so mention like, hey, this is what happened here. If you remember it, put in even a little editor's note there. And I overall think that I that Legends is more well known for the John Byrne art and also all the books that came after it. Because we do have a brand new Justice League that has a lot of critical praise from every. Like I hope we get to see JLI in DC Finest at some point. It would be a shame if we didn't. But completely agreed on that front. And yeah, once you
Oh yeah,
get,
no,
go sorry.
the Legend story itself, I really enjoyed. I thought that the story, the miniseries, was a lot of fun. I getting introduced to a lot of the characters, seeing Wally West kind of. This is the debut of Wally West
Mm-hmm.
as the Flash,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, tons of fun. So there's nothing wrong with the miniseries itself. I understand that it's a story that has like a million different tie-ins from other issues. I read the Batman one in year one, so maybe at some point we'll see this book show up in the events line when they include all of the different tie-in issues and everything like that too. And that would be fine. I think that would be a good one to do.
I think yeah, agreed on that front. Because yeah, I do think like Legends is a good. like I would rather have preferred them to start something like that maybe versus a 0 hour. Where 0 hour, I just remember, you talking about like I don't know what's going on here because you haven't been exposed to some of these characters before. But Legends, I think, does a fine job at you getting to know like who these characters are, what they're doing, and some of the like the cool moments between with Wally, when Diana comes in at the end. There's a lot of stuff to be had in Legends, I think, that lend itself to a fun read for those who maybe haven't read it before. And then obviously, like I think once you get to Secret Origins 14, and the creation of the Suicide Squad, that's where we get to the montages. We get to like the 9 and 16 panel pages where you're introduced to the team. It honestly feels like, and this is one thing I just love about this particular comic book, the montages are excellent. I think the way that they introduce the characters, I think the way that they introduce the people that they have to fight in certain issues and the setting, it's perfect for this book because you get to understand like okay, like this is what the team is supposed to do. This is who they're fighting against, and the setting. I think the setup of that is like near perfect, as far as anything that I have read personally of any team at DC.
So I got this book really late. It didn't get shipped to me until like a week after the release date. So I haven't had as much time as I wanted to go through this. And I started to go through it, and like you get 200 pages in, and you're not even at issue number one yet. So it's there's a lot of pre-content here. So I've only actually read maybe three or four of the actual issues of the actual run, but let me tell you, they are fantastic. Those the when you get into the actual story, the actual title, Suicide Squad with John Ostrander, it's just fantastic. I um Really, really smart writing. I was super impressed with that first issue where it's all set up.
Mm-hmm.
You don't get any of the action or anything like that. It's all just laying the seeds, but it's so well done. And like I think this was probably um hopefully this was a game changer for DC in terms of structuring stories and such, because I know they were going through just a general rebirth of all of their titles at a time, and I hope this one was kind of setting the standard because this title has such a strong start to it. Really, really good, great characterization from all of the characters. What a good premise it is as well, and so I'm very impressed. I need to find time to read the rest of this volume amidst the other DC finest because it's too good to put down.
It is. I remember when I was on the train and reading, this particular book, and I was at a page where Deadshot was like going through some of the different teleportation that Nightshade was doing. Somebody behind me was asking like, "Hey, what are you reading, if I may ask?" And I was like, "Oh, this is Suicide Squad." That person was all like pulled out a compact edition of N.K. Jemisin and Jamal Campbell's Far Sector and told me like, "Hey, I'm reading comics too. Like this is so cool." I didn't know
Awesome.
that I would have an interest. Yeah, I found that really weird, but also cool. um, but this is super like for those of you who haven't read it or are maybe on the fence, if you want a team book with high stakes, also really, really well done drama, like not manufactured drama for the sake of it being manufactured, but actual personalities clashing with different personalities, because everybody here, they want their fair shot at like, okay, like maybe there's something at the end of me for this, we don't have to worry about like, okay, if we do Amanda Waller's gig, maybe we can go like, and they understand too, like all the risks that are going along with it. After all, it is called Suicide Squad for a reason. You are putting yourself on the front line for reasons. And I think if you just want to nail a team book with everything that you want, I mean this book has it. I can't name one thing that it falters in at any given point in time.
Yeah. This was what I also like here is that I think this happened actually in the Legends miniseries. Captain Boomerang, like the deal that they have, the purpose of this team is they're taking bad guys to do high stake missions where they could be very potentially put in real danger, where their lives are at risk. And if they do this, then they can earn their freedom afterwards. And so Captain Boomerang at the very beginning does that, and he says, "Okay, I did it. I'm out of here." And then he realizes that he can't really integrate back into society the way he is. It just doesn't work. So he's like, "Okay, I guess I'm gonna go back to the Suicide Squad, be among those people." And every character is like that, and every character, because they're all villains, they're selfish, they're self-centered, they're in your face, and so you have a whole group of obnoxious people, and you may think, "Oh man, I don't really want to read a book where everyone's just a jerk," but the way they're written is good, and I can tell that they're going to, of course, soften these characters over time so they come to see each other as a family. And who knows? I assume that the cast is constantly going to be rotating because characters are going to be killed off, and they'll bring new characters in and all that kind of stuff. So it'll be really, really cool to see that, to keep that fresh, and keep that going. I'm hoping that a follow-up DC Finest will be more of this era. I'm not particularly keen to go back to the original Silver Age era. We'll see. That stuff will come eventually, I'm sure. But for this time, I want to see more of this series reprinted.
This is one of my favorite eras, I think. Oh, just overall of DC, and something to expand on with what you're talking about with characters being killed off and whatnot. I think the fun part and the best part of this book is not knowing who else is going to get kaput, which makes you want to see, like, not only what comes next, but also, like, attaches you in a weird way where you're going, like, I probably shouldn't be feeling anything for this character because, they're a murderer, they're
Yeah,
psychotic, or what may have you.
right.
But you are still going to be attached to it because you don't, they're trying to, make sure that they don't end up in that point. And we get, first couple of issues, somebody may, one person, I won't say who, gets kaput, and you will see that, move on, but you get attached to it because you want to see this whatever operation succeed. Like, it's not just, oh, it's a throwaway. It's people trying to somewhat redeem themselves, and broken people trying to be less broken and finding solace in other people who maybe have some fixtures who aren't. And the situations that they're placed in, like, there's one where they're in Louisiana and they have to fight. Like, there are some gripping moments I found in this book too. Gripping emotional moments where, like, I'm floored and I'm just like, I did not expect that out of an 80s comic, but I'm really, really glad that Ostrander was able to yeah, place that in. Like, it's fantastic stuff.
It's awesome. Yeah, yeah. Really, really good. Um, yeah, I mean, I don't have much more to say because I haven't read half of this book, so I can't comment on the future issues, but I like what I see so far.
I will also, like, I think, hope maybe we could talk about that next month because we only have the three coming out. But there is one part, we have the Batman stuff, which is also thrown in here. Like, Batman is thrown into the wind via the Suicide Squad, and I wanna I wanna get your thoughts on that later at some point because I have some things to say about
Okay.
Batman's incorporation with that and Amanda Waller, and whatnot. But let's go ahead and get back to the chat, if we can, just for a bit. Starscream 1988. Good afternoon, guys. I hope you're having a fine day as well. Thank you for joining Kurtis and I with all of this as well. Yeah, glad they're reprinting a lot of older stories. They need to do one of Golden Age Shazam and All Star Squadron as well. Completely agreed. Just also harken back on the Plastic Man point. Phil Owens said that there was a 20-issue run in 1966 to 1977. And yeah, we've never had Legends completely collected. Like, we've had it sparsely in here and there. Like Curtis mentioned, Batman 401, I think, is the issue, which ties into Legends that we already have discussed and read. But yeah, I would like to see that as well. Spent also a bunch of time tracking down the Suicide Squad trades, including Legends separately and also in the Deadshot mini, but was happy to rebuy it in this format. One of the best series DC has ever published. Completely agreed with James. Let's see. Armageddon 2001 and Darkness Within Annual crossovers would be fun too. Uh, Draw the line of bloodlines. Even some people have standards. Um, Legends was also introduced to the recently acquired Charlton characters at DCU, like, yes, Captain Atom, who we also saw a little bit of in this Suicide Squad book, Blue Beetle, Nightshade, and others as well. Um, Post.
Right. I didn't realize that they were acquired that late in their history. I thought it was a much earlier.
Yeah, I think like I draw like when I always like draw the line, I guess at like Watchmen as to like okay, like we can see some of these characters being placed into the DCU because that's when they just started popping up, in other places. So let's see. Yeah, Atomic Count is really glad that you're enjoying this, Curtis.
Good. Yeah.
Which is awesome. We also
Thanks.
have 20-ish DC Finest stuff, which is a lot of books. Like I didn't realize, but yeah, I already have like one half of the shelf um filled up of all DC Finest.
They take up a lot of
They
space.
do indeed. Ed Joe, friend of the channel. Hope you're doing well, my friend. But yes, we got 19. We got 19. We're gonna have 20 next week. Hank says they sold their complete run of Suicide Squad in singles in 2015. Was never able to get all the trades. So happy for the new releases. You can DC find us Bloodlines just for Tom McCown, our friend. But yes, that is all of our thoughts on the Suicide Squad. And last but definitely not least from this particular joint, and I was also telling Kurtis behind the camera that this book was something that I desperately needed because I will, not to be too transparent, but I am feeling the work crunch time. This is the last book, and it is Team Up's Chase to the End of Time, appropriately named after the first issue of DC Presents #1. This particular collection collects DC Comics Presents 1 through 14 and Brave and the Bold 141 to 155. And this has a lot of Batman and Superman and whoever else decides to join in the fray. But I want to quickly say before we dive in, the Superman and Adam Strange story, if you got a chance to read that, Curtis, was actually like the one story that like stuck out with me amongst the rest. I'm not saying that the rest aren't great or whatever, but one thing that I really loved from this particular comic book is that they're all, for the most part, one shots, with the exception of the DC Comics Presents first two issues, which are part of a Superman and Flash storyline. And you get a chance to see different characters and different environments work with Batman or Superman. In the case of DC Comics Presents, you have Superman leading the charge with another person teaming up with them, and then Batman, or Brave and the Bold, you have Batman doing other stuff with them. But one thing that I love from the Superman and Adam Strange one, because I guess part spoiler, they switch their cities that they live in and the planets that they live in. I won't display as to why or who. But I do think that these also lend well for new readers, especially if you've never read an Adam Strange story. You're like, oh, like this is the planet that he lives on. These are some of the characters that he's friends with. And you get to see different environments from different characters, and the team-ups are all very, very fun throughout. And you have a whole lot of different genres within the superhero that are all portrayed here. So very, very enjoyable stuff.
Yeah, there are with this type of book, there are definitely going to be some stories that are better than others. I've read I so with this book, I decided to jump around. I had even less time. Um, yeah, thanks. I had even less time to read this one than I did with Suicide Squad, just because Suicide Squad put me behind because it just came late. So I decided to jump around, and um, there's some really really fun stuff in here that I've seen here. I really like there's a Plastic Man issue,
Mm-hmm.
a Christmas
The
issue. So first of all, I'm a sucker for Christmas issues. I
Yeah.
just like them. And then Plastic Man. I picked this one because I had just read the other book, and I'm like, I want to see how he's portrayed here in the 70s, and it's very different. He's definitely a joker and much more of a funny guy than he is portrayed in the other book. So we were just talking about that portrayal, and then it shows itself in the 70s here with this book. And that issue is a lot of fun. I like that one a lot. Great art from Jim Aparo. And then also there's the 150th issue of Brave and the Bold, which I'm just amazed that it went to 150 and beyond. Like that's just amazing. But that's the one where it's a mystery on the front cover who the team up is, because the premise of that story is that Bruce Wayne is kidnapped
Mm-hmm.
and Batman is trying to find who kidnapped Bruce Wayne. So it's like, well, how are they both there? And they keep it a secret from the reader until the very end. But I don't know if this is worth putting up the spoiler alert
Might as well. You
button
know
on.
what? Might as well because I made it in on time, and let's
There you
mark
go.
this as the spoiler part of the section.
So turns out that it's Superman who's wearing the cape and cowl, and that is it's neat because that's something that happens like all the time that I've read through DC history. Like the very first meeting of Batman and Superman back in World's Finest. I'm pretty sure if I remember correctly, they do the same thing where Superman poses as Batman to try and uh, show they're in two places at this at or the same place at the same time or something like that. I can't remember, but yeah. So um that's it. You can take the spoiler alert off of there now.
Oh my gosh, I
This is a bevy of great talent. There's so many incredibly talented artists involved in here. Um, let's see if I can name a few of them here. Um, uh, Jose Luis Garcia Lopez, of course, does a lot of the work here. Jim Aparo, Dick Giordano, Ross Andrew,
mhm.
Dick Dillon. Like, there's so many great stuff. DC had such a defined and distinct style during this era where everybody kind of tried to fit in the same mold in order to create a house style. And while I appreciate artists kind of showing off their own particular skills, there's something to be said for the consistency that something like that brings. And they still have their own style. Don't get me wrong, it's not like they're all exactly the same. Um, but reading through this book, it's so consistent, and I absolutely love being able to see stuff from this era like that.
The
It's
tone, yeah,
iconic.
100%. Because of the tone that I feel like Jim Aparo was setting in the Brave and the Bold issues, even when he's off, like Romeo Tanghal, who does issue 146, where it's Batman teaming up with the Unknown Soldier. It still very much feels like it's a Jim Aparo, uh, like tonally styled issue, even if it's not him drawing it. And you can say the same for Kurt Swan is emulating a lot of the same vibes that Jose Luis Garcia Lopez envisioned in the first two issues of DC Comics Presents when Superman teams up with the Flash to figure out what's wrong with the time periods that they're in. It's I think a like this book made me feel like a kid again in the best ways. Like I remember when I was a kid, like watching the Brave and the Bold cartoon, on Cartoon Network or Boomerang if it was rerunning, and it just made me remember like how much I love to see random superheroes do team ups with each other for whatever that purpose might be, whether it's to stop the Joker, stop Solomon Grundy, or maybe another DC villain, or maybe it's a brand new foe that we've never been introduced to before. It really reminded me of the like the lighthearted tone that I think you can have in a lot of these superhero stories. And with superheroes maybe who you never envisioned, why would Batman team up with the Phantom Stranger? There are so many cool concepts and ideas thrown in here that I just found it refreshing to see creators, whether it's a David Michelinie, whether it's Bob Haney, whoever's writing the book, figure out ways to make two characters work together for the semblance of the story that they're trying to tell. And I find that really, really great.
Marvel had their two team up books around the same time here. Marvel Team Up featuring Spider-Man and Marvel 2-in-1 featuring The Thing. And it was exactly the same comment. Same format where it's standalone issues for the most part. Some of them tie like carry over and such. But the main hero teaming up with a different, maybe B-list character or something like that. Um, I might say that DC was doing this concept better than Marvel was,
Mm-hmm. Oh,
based
100%.
on what I've read here. I think so.
Yeah, because it feels like maybe that's just the Batman Superman part of it, because I love those two characters and getting to see them team up with, Batman and Black Canary, or maybe it's Superman and Adam Strange, or whoever it might be. I really just love the way that they wrote, specific stories that fit both of those characters somehow. And maybe it's just like, with the Thing and Human Torch, maybe you're just restricted to only those things that those two can tell. Maybe it's just the Marvel part of it. I have no idea what it is, but yeah, maybe it's just them saying like, these are two of our biggest characters. They can work in different ways, and might as well have them in team up books that showcase uh, who they are as superheroes, and how you can fit that into the grander scheme of it all in just one quick issue, and make that a whole lot of fun for the reader.
Yeah.
But yeah, but I want to get back to something that I just found interesting with this particular book, and it wasn't the Adam Strange issue. I found it weird. I don't know if you had read the part yet. But Superman teams up with the Metal Men in issue number 4 of DC Comics Presents. And
Great. Yeah, I didn't read that one.
yeah, as somebody who who finds the Metal Men interesting because they were in they were Infinite Crisis, they were in 52. Dan Didio really liked them a lot, so I'm just like talking to myself. Maybe it's just like, oh, like Dan Didio really liked them in that issue, and that's why they kept popping up in later. Because yeah, you usually don't hear about the Metal Men unless they're like with Dr. Magnus or whoever it is. Anyways, just wanted to quickly point that out. But yeah, Phil Owens, Paro, Swan, Dick Dillon, yeah, awesome art throughout in this book. And Team Ups is Nicola's favorite of the finest line so far. You can Partworks Comics reader says that he can see that this line having world's finest non-solo material in post 2000 Batman Superman, Brave and the Bold as well, as a two team we've seen so far. So that could be a possibility. I'm also wondering if for World's Finest, if they do a different line called World's Finest, but I think it fits in with team ups as well. So maybe perhaps.
It would be DC Finest, World's Finest.
DC Finals, DCWF. I love the double on the finest. Good alliteration. And
I mean, World's Finest, I think, has the name value to stand on its own, whereas DC Comics Presents doesn't.
mhm.
So I can see why, like Brave and the Bold also kind of has a name value to hold on its own, but by putting them together for team ups, I think team ups gives them more leeway to put in and take out what they want. It's not as restrictive. And then that also means that I think that they can sell something a little easier if they call it DC Team Ups rather than DC Comics Presents. So, but World's Finest, like I said, World's Finest stands on its own, and I'm pretty sure that Superman Batman would stand on its own too. Like having a DC Finest that's called Superman Batman. Technically, I guess you could have done that with team ups. You could have called this one
Right.
Superman Batman as
Right.
well. But I'm guessing that Superman Batman will have its own DC Finest at some point.
Yeah, because this one, like Brave and the Bold, only became a Batman line on issues 74 and after. You had a whole bunch of
Okay.
different team ups with 1 through 73, and then 74 was like, let's make Batman the star of the show. Don't call it Batman Brave and the Bold, but just call it Brave and the Bold and just have a star of Batman. And that's where you get a lot of that
Well, there you go.
here.
then that's even more reason to just call this a team ups book rather than attach a specific superhero name to it.
For sure. Yeah, completely agreed. If you want a nice broad look at 70s DC with a whole lot of different characters, it is a great entry point. Yeah, Adam Strange and Lois talk, and Adam Strange is like, I don't know who this Lois Lane is, but if we could go up on the rooftop and have a nice talk to figure out what's going on, that does happen. I'm not trying to. If there was innuendo there, Karsten, I'm so sorry. um, there's a lot of crazy stuff in this book, Justin. Really need to look incredibly closely to see the differences between Silver Age artists.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. It really is fun in the best way. Like I don't like this. Just it feels like I'm in. I'm 7 or 6 years old again. Like watching all those random Batman cartoons, and that's exactly like how I feel with, this particular book. Earlier in the Brave and Bold story, there is even a Batman House of Mystery team up.
Amazing.
It's just insane to think about. Doctor Strange and the Secret Defenders does the same thing later. Uh,
Right. Yeah.
for sure. Um, let's see. Okay, here's a trivia question. I actually don't know. Batman teamed up most frequently with whom in Brave and the Bold?
Is this a question for us? Or do you know the answer, Atomic Count? It's probably Superman.
I would envision it'd be Superman because yeah, I'm like they're best friends or should be best friends always. Um, and this is an interesting comment to note too, because yeah, we would have preferred if each team up series got its own DC Finest line. I do wonder if just the way that these books are structured, maybe DC wants because these aren't particularly small in any case. This one clocks in at 560 pages. Um, and I think if you put those two, for however long, 100, like the 200 issues or so, I think you can make an entire line of that, pretty cheap. Like just have 7 to 8 of them, have them be team ups at least for this era. I don't know. But that is an interesting DFWF. It's a strange abbreviation, but it works. I can't say that it doesn't. Um, but anyways, here's a question for you, Kurtis, from Jarn. I wasn't interested when Epic Collections started, but Kurtis, how did you think this first year of DC Finest compares to when Marvel started doing this?
This is so hard to answer because what Marvel was doing, you know, almost, 11 and a half years ago, I think it is, was no one had done that before. And they started with only 5 titles because they were testing the market and they were going for eras that hadn't been covered by omnibuses and that kind of stuff. And they were only doing one release a month. That It's because of the success of the Marvel Epic collections that DC Finest has come in so strong here. I believe, at least. I don't think you'll ever hear DC saying that themselves. But really, they're looking, I'm sure they're looking at the Epic collections and saying, okay, people are willing to go all in on this stuff. So let's just give them 3 books a month and let's go hard and wide with a ton of different titles. Let's take risks on some of the old stuff. Let's do team ups. Let's do war. Let's do horror. Let's do science fiction. Like all of that, I think wouldn't have been possible if Marvel hadn't laid down that groundwork initially. And so DC is taking that concept and pushing it a little bit further. So if I'm strictly saying, um, if you're strictly asking, how does the very first year of Marvel of Epic Collections compare to the first year of DC Finest? No contest. DC Finest is doing way better. It's a way better line. Um, but I don't think you can compare them exactly the same like that.
Just two different points in time, two different inflections, and two completely like different. Like DC started out with some pretty big hits with
Yep.
the first couple of months, and even now, like we have Suicide Squad this month, and I was, when Marvel first started, I was, oh gosh, I was in grade school when Marvel started their Epic line. So, I wasn't reading Marvel comics then. But it's crazy to think now because, again, not DC, but I mean, how many Marvel epics have we had in the last couple of years with lines completely like not like near finishing or getting to finish?
They're
Like it's
getting there. Only a few so far have really been truly finished.
right,
Um, but yeah, I mean, the fact that they have the Marvel, the modern Marvel ones, and they did Conan and Aliens and all, like this expanded quite a bit, and and they're very comparable, I think, to each other now, unless you compare the price point and the page count.
right, right.
That's the big
Mhm.
difference here.
Right, and it's something that we'll get to late or soonish because like we do want to get into the 16 DC finest. I know it says 14 on the itinerary, but I made this yesterday, not knowing that the catalog was going to be completely out today. But so we have stuff
Yep.
there. But we do. But one thing that I want to say really quick on that note is just actually wait, I forgot my train of thought. Holy. Um, but somebody did
It's
mention.
okay.
Somebody did mention. Here, Atomic Hound said that Green Arrow has the most appearances in the Brave and the Bold issues. Green Arrow actually makes or has one in this as well. So
Yeah, that's right.
um, you got Atomic Hound with the answer there, and I do like Ollie content. I will say, like a lot of his books do tend to be really done well. Um, on Yes, okay, this was a comment I wanted to get on because DC Green Lantern, we're getting a DC Finest Green Lantern with the first appearance of Guy Gardner, and actually I think that is a perfect segue to get into the books upcoming, and also some of the, if I can pull it out here, let's see if I can do this. We have some books to talk about. Fortunately, the overlay doesn't really work on with. Let me see if I can move us to maybe a different spot on the.
You can just blank us out even.
Okay, you know what? I think I can do that.
Yeah, I should have made the square ones. Sorry about that.
Oh
I
no,
made the
this
long
this is no, this is
one.
perfectly fine. It looks again. Want to give a big quick big shout out to Kurtis for being able to do these brand new books. To see if I can. There we go. So yeah, we're gonna be starting out with Batman: Legend of the Dark Knight. These are Batman's first stories from 1939 to 1941, collecting the first 5 issues of Batman and 27 to 52 of Detective Comics.
Yeah, so this one was one that was just revealed this morning because they released the Edelweiss catalog. And so we didn't know about this even yesterday. So this is breaking news. This means that we have now 4 volumes of Batman DC Finest. 3 of them, no, this one will be January 2026.
Mm-hmm.
So we had one in 2024 at the very end, and then we have two in 2025, and then we have this one coming out in 2026. So they might be on a 2 a year schedule. We'll have to see how that pans out.
Indeed, because it is Batman, it is arguably like no, it's not even arguably. He is their most popular character, and this is the most wanted character as far as people want to see Batman printed out. So we will have to see what what eventually all the rest of the plans for 2026 are with in regards to Batman. But I do really like that they are finally getting to the starting point. But I'm also glad that we didn't have the golden age Batman stuff at the start. I'm really glad they managed to put out all the post crisis stuff, and even the volume right before we hit Crisis of Infinite Earths, which we'll get to in a moment. I'm really glad that they started out with those instead of we're at the beginning.
Yeah, this is material that has been reprinted so many times in the past, most recently in the Golden Age Omnibus and the paperbacks that followed that. Um, and it's stuff that's always going to be reprinted or in print in some form by DC. So this is just the time for that now.
Indeed. Next up on the list is
I'm going in alphabetical order, I'm pretty
we
sure here.
So alphabetical order, not necessarily release order, but we do have Blue Beetle challenges the Red Knight from the early Charlton comics. Some of stuff I'm blown away by what is in here. It's Captain Atom 83 to 86, the Blue Beetle from 1964 1 through 5, Blue Beetle from 1965 1 through 5 and 50 to 54, and then Charlton Bullseye number 1.
Now, this is going to be the very first appearances of Blue Beetle, right? This is his number one volume.
Mm-hmm.
And this is all the Charlton, not all of it, but this is all Charlton material. So no actual like DC published stuff. This is from from before Blue Beetle was owned by DC. So that's always cool. I like to see stuff from the other publishers.
Completely great. It's also like the early Steve Ditko stuff, and I also will finally be able to say I've read something with Dan Garrett, Blue Beetle, because it's the Blue Beetles that I have been used to as a reader are Ted Cord, who is also in this book, and Jaime Reyes. Those are the two Blue Beetles that I've read in so many different stories. I have never gotten a chance to read any of this early stuff, even though I know about it. I know about Dan Garrett. I know about his fate in another book that will be upcoming. But I have never personally read this stuff, so I can't wait being able to go into DC Finest Blue Beetle and getting my hands in with this. Like, this is crazy.
Yeah.
But next up on that front, we do have what I did allude to in with Dan Garrett in Crisis on Infinite Earths Part 1. Kurtis, if you would like to read out the contents listed here, my friend.
Actually, before we go on, Phil just has a comment here saying the first Blue Beetle stories were published in the early 40s. So this, there are other Blue Beetle volumes, I guess, even earlier than this, which is pretty amazing.
It
So
is.
that I guess we'll look for those in a future release. But yes, events. Crisis on Infinite Earths Part 1, Swamp Thing 39, Batman 381 to 390, 389 to 391, Detective Comics 555 to 558, Justice League of America 244, Green Lantern, Wonder Woman, DC Comics presents Infinity Inc., The Fury of Firestorm, All-Star Squadron, Losers Special, and then of course Crisis on Infinite Earths numbers 1 through 4, which this is a 12-issue series, right?
Correct.
Um, so it only has the first quarter of the series, or the first third of the series.
I also find this interesting because I'm wondering, because some people are gonna, question like how are they gonna map it? Is it going to be like the they made a set box, like a box set of the Crisis on Infinite Earths tie-ins back a couple years ago. I want to say it came out in 2019, and a lot of those issues that are also in those box sets are also in this specific collected edition. Now we have seen with the mapping that all of the ones that we have read so far are based on their publication date. It is you read like as the reader going through 1986 and saying, okay, this was published first, and then this thing was published second, and then maybe if there is a two-issue story, they will group those together, and then the next issue will go on. So for the most part, we have seen the release date line up, or publication date as the mapping set point. But I am still very interested to see how they decide to put what where. Are we starting off with Crisis 1? Or where are we starting from that point? So very interested to see how they do it and if it's any different. Because I don't have the box sets, but I know some people do. So if anyone who has those box sets, yeah, let me know. But that is, I think, what we have for Crisis on Infinite Earths Part 1. Glad to see that they're doing that. Next up, we got Doom Patrol, Death of the Doom Patrol from 1961 to 66, collecting Brave and the Bold, 34 to 36 and 42 to 44, Mystery in Space 87 to 90, Atom number 7, and Hawkman 1 through
Oh,
16.
so that content is not right. That's the content to the Hawkman book. I must have accidentally given you the wrong slide here. Doom Patrol should have, let me see here. Where did it go? This is another book that was uh, released this morning, so I kind of rushed to get this slide out, and I didn't get all of
You're
it.
good, my friend.
Let me see. Gotta find it. I gotta find it online here. Go to the catalog.
We apologize for
Go to the
this.
last page here. Um, where are you, Doom Patrol?
Oh, here we go. Okay, I have the contents.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah,
so
go for it.
Showcase 94 to 96, Superman Family 191 to 193, and Doom Patrol 103 to 121.
There you go. That's right.
So,
Yeah,
Paul,
that's and the years it starts at 1966 and I think it goes to 1968. 66 to 68 I think is the actual years there. But yeah, they this is a follow-up from the last volume. So that's kind of nice to keep this series going. Um and yeah, this is another one that I'll look forward to because I did enjoy a lot of the last Doom Patrol, and great to see where it goes from here.
yeah, I want.
Especially if they all die. What does that mean?
Um, I won't say, but I will say that I'm interested to see like what era they come after with next, considering that there is a pretty big gap between this and then the Vertigo series that starts up in the late 80s. Also, another thing too with this specific Doom Patrol, and in particular with like because Vertigo, for those who might be listening to this, might be watching this, for those who don't know, Vertigo was just reinstalled back to DC a couple of months ago. Was one of the biggest announcements that they made, I think during New York Comic Con, was the timeline set there. But they are labeling characters who are in the DC universe as Black Label. And we have seen a lot of those Black Label be reprinted throughout. So I do think that we will get a chance to see Grant Morrison's and Rachel Pollack's Doom Patrol in DC Finest at some point. I wonder if they're going to go there next to make those affordable, or for those who might not want the omnibuses to get to that point. So we will have to see what's next for the weirdest characters, I would say, in the DC universe. But yes, that's right. If you would like to read the Green Lantern, Earth's Other Green Lantern solicit.
Sure. So this is Green Lantern, Earth's Other Green Lantern. The Flash, 168. Green Lantern, 40 to 61, and The Brave and the Bold, 69. The introduction to sorry, Hal Jordan, Guy Gardner, another Green Lantern. And so this is kind of this is the beginning of a lot of Green Lantern mythology, because now we're going to, from here on out, there are a lot of Earth Green Lanterns. So this is a continuation from the previous volume. John Broome and Gardner Fox and Gil Kane doing a lot of the work in here. And I enjoyed the last volume for the most part. And so I think this one will be really good. I would like to see some more Green Lantern from some different eras and get out of the Silver Age a little bit. So I'm hoping that the next volume will maybe show us a different era. But this is nice to see for now.
Phil, we're not on near mid condition, so there are no strikes. So we're good. Yeah, no, I'm very excited for this one as well, to continue on with the Silver Age theme, because I did very much enjoy a lot of the first DC Finest that we have here as well. And of course, yes, Guy Gardner's introduction to this particular book in issue 59 of Green Lantern. Next up, we do have, okay, here for Hawkman, Wings Across Time, collecting a lot of early Joe Kubert, which is awesome to see, from 61 to 66. The aforementioned Brave and the Bold, Mystery in Space, Hawkman, and Atom issues are in here. I am trying to... Where did my mouse go? How Guy Gardner got chosen by a ring, I'll never understand. You know what? I can't wait to talk about Guy Gardner because I got some opinions, I think, on the big slug who is now going to be in the Superman movie, which is very interesting to see. Um, Next up, maybe I do have this a little out of order, but it is okay. We do have Batman Red Skies, Collecting Secret Origin 6, Annual number 10, Batman 386 to 400, and Detective Comics 553 to 567. Oh, you're muted, my friend.
I'm super excited about this. I am really looking forward to the that era before Crisis. I just kind of really like the style and the writing of that era. So I'm looking forward to this one quite a bit.
It's got a lot of good Dung Bench issues, at least the parts of what I have read. But I can't wait to read it in the publication reading order. Because, yeah, when we talked to Mark Wade about this back on Near Mint or Very Fine Condition, sorry, back in October when we did the launch stream, I remember him talking about this particular set of volumes as it wasn't like Crisis wasn't a breaking point for Batman like it was with Superman or for Wonder Woman. Where Superman, like you very much get a different Superman after Crisis on Infinite Earths. With Batman, you get more so the same tones, same stories, and same everything else. So, I'm very very excited to get back into. I love Batman. I will read anything Batman or most things Batman. So very very excited to get to those issues.
And is that stuff that hasn't been reprinted before, or have we seen it come up before?
I have never seen those specific Doug Mensch issues collected before, like in any
Okay.
collection. Like, yeah, there's a lot of like the Alan Grant Doug Mensch stuff, like in the like, early mid '80s that I have been begging DC to like print out some way, but alas, to no avail. So, um, yeah, it is a good Batman cover. I completely agree with you there. Um, but yeah, looking forward to this as well. Um, and yes, the one punch was indeed by the Batman Atomic Hound. Next up, we got Horror, The Devil's Doorway. Um, we got House of Secrets, House of Mystery, Phantom Stranger, The Witching Hour, and The Unexpected in here.
This one I'm really looking forward to. I love these horror short stories. Big fan of like the EC archives and the Atlas era horror comics that Fantagraphics has been collecting. Like I those are so great. And this is going to be more of that. So I'm I'm really looking forward to seeing that. I love that it's a grab bag of different titles so that we can get a good sampling of everything. Rather than giving us just a straight volume of Witching Hour, which I understand that people might only want one like a full volume of House of Mystery or just the unexpected issues or whatever, but I think this is a good way of doing this of branding this kind of material.
Yeah, I love the sampling of all the volumes too. And we also saw this when they talked about it in the press release, right? Where they said that they were also going to go for genre books. And this was the first of two in the 16 set that we are seeing a branding of a genre versus a branding of a title, right? Like, I really, really appreciate that they managed to, collect all of that in here. I didn't expect the unexpected to be collected in here. I guess if there's a word jumble, but I'm really, really excited to get into all of this as well. I have been on a weird horror hitch, I think, for like the last couple of years, because horror has been, I think, everywhere in comics nowadays. So to get to see some of the earlier horror comics from this timeline, I think is going to be a good experience for me and you as well.
Yep.
Um, so yes, next up we do have JLA, The Return. Right before we get to Crisis and right before the JM DeMatteis era of JLA or sorry, Justice League. We got Justice League of America 241 and 261 here, Infinity Inc. number 19 and Annual number 3.
Yeah, this is going to be a good one, I think. Even though, from what I am told, this is the end of the Detroit era Justice League.
Mm-hmm. This is the end. This is the
So
end.
I will be jumping into the very end of this, having not read the beginning of it, but I'm okay with that. I think um, comics of this era, of course, catch you up to speed really quick with the way that they're written. So I'll be fine. Oh, there's a typo in this one. I have two J's
Oh, I
in the
just
very
noted.
first
Yeah, I just
Justice League
noticed
there.
that. J Justice. That's got to be a. It's got to be a book that we need out at some point. Um, but also in this too, yeah, J.M. DeMatteis, if my mind serves correctly, gets on or co-writes some of the issues with Jerry Conway in like the last portion of this DC
Okay.
Finest. So, yeah, we are excited to hopefully be talking about this soon at some point. And yeah, Partworks commentary says JLI thick trades reprinting this year. So no, I think I'm interested to see like what they decide to go because DC all like likes reprinting a lot of stuff in completely different formats. How many times have we seen Long Halloween be printed in regular trade paperback, absolute omnibus, you name it. Um,
Now it's coming out as a DC Compact.
exactly, which is everybody everyone's saying strike two, Kurt.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, okay.
Keep it cool, my man. It's okay. Um, we got Wrath of the Spectre. Very interesting that they are juggling in this big era from 1974 to 88. We got Adventure Comics 431 to 440, Showcase 60 to 61, and 64. The Spectre, Volume 2, issues 1 through 10. Brave and the Bold 72, All Star Squadron 27 through 28. Ghost set 97 to 99, and Wrath of the Spectre, issue number 4.
This one should be good too. Again, this is that nice spot in the 70s and 80s for DC that I'm interested in. So, know nothing really about this
Mm-hmm.
character other than what I saw in that other Justice League volume that we had already,
Mm-hmm.
in which he was kind of ridiculous. Oh no, not Justice League, Justice Society
Mm-hmm.
from the 40s. So this, I'm sure, is a very different Spectre.
Very much so, yeah.
But I'll be interested in this one.
Can't wait to talk about it. Next up on the list, we have Static. This is one that I was actually super shocked to see because I had no idea. This was a question that I know that we had
Static Shock.
earlier. Yeah, Static Shock. There you go. We got a Static Shock with this because we were questioning like, are they ever going to reprint some of the Milestone or some of the other lines that you typically might not see in a DC finest format, but it is really cool that we are getting to see this. Static 1 through 15, Superman, Man of Steel, Super 36, Superboy 7, and Worlds Collide number 1. Of course, all guest issues. Very excited to see this. And also cool that they are dipping into the Milestone with all this as well.
So does this, yeah, there you go. And you can see that they've put a little milestone logo up in the top corner.
Mm-hmm.
This is the first time that they're going to reprint an imprint of DC. Now, I don't know what the legal status of that is. Does DC just flat out own all of the milestone content, or is that creator-owned stuff? I have no idea.
Milestone returned back over to DC earlier in 2021. They had a whole Milestone Returns initiative where plenty of the creators, like Dennis Cowan, um, and others as well decided, hey, like let's bring this back up again. And we got a brand new Static Shock book out of it. We got an Icon book back, and that's when they started doing those Milestone compendiums as well. So DC has the rights back to print those, and I just do find it interesting that they're starting off with Static as far as characters are concerned.
Yeah, I mean, I only know Static really from that cartoon that came out many, many years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And but flipping through the content of the compendium stuff, it's got a really cool art style, and so this will be a neat one to check out. I'm looking forward to it.
Indeed, I am as well. Next up, we got the Super Friends. Oh my gosh.
So this was another unexpected one. Really, it's all ages, first of all, and it's not part of the regular DC canon. So the fact that they're willing to branch out here means that maybe we'll see other stuff that's not part of the regular DC canon as well. Limited Collector's Edition number 41, Limited Collector's Edition number 46, and Super Friends 1 through 26. This is the E. Nelson Birdwell and Ramona Fradden series from the 70s. So, yeah.
It I
I was when I was a kid, I used to have a few of the Superpowers toys, action figures,
oh, it's cool.
and I liked the Super Friends cartoons. So um, to be able to have a DC Finest with this content in it, I think is pretty special.
It is because you mentioned that it's not, it's not in the DC canon where most of our books have been from actual Earth Zero or whatever DC wanted to call their continuity back at that time. Like this is completely out of the norm, and honestly, a really good sign that I think like they're also willing to step outside of their regular Earth Zero box and say like we're gonna print some material that isn't a part of it, which I've never read this stuff before. Um, so I'm very excited to get into it.
This makes me hope for is the Batman Adventures series. Um, all of the stuff relating to the Batman animated world. If
Hmm.
we can get those in DC Finest, I think that would be really great.
It would be as well. Fire from the JLI also makes her first appearance in this comic. So that is yeah, all the money like yeah, must buy, must buy. Yeah, I can't wait to get into this. Unfortunately, all of the Super Friends stuff that I have watched are just clips of Aquaman being stereotypically Aquaman. But no, this is something that I'm super excited to get into because yeah, I've never read this material before, and I think this collection will be a good jumping on for me to delve into that cartoon world. So excited,
Yep.
excited for that. Next up, this has been something that I have been wanting for decades. Well, not decades, but it feels like decades. Supergirl, Body and Soul. This is the Peter David and Gary Frank run. I really, really. This is my Supergirl, I think. The Supergirl that I'm used to when I talk to people about this character. They printed the first two trades of this particular like era of comics, and then they just stopped. So getting to see this back into a collection will be awesome to see. So Supergirl 1 through 18, Showcase 96 number 8, Annual 1 through 2 of Supergirl, and Supergirl Plus number 1. Yeah, give it all to me. This is one of my favorite eras of comics for Supergirl for sure.
I always remember the um the advertisement when this first came out,
Mm-hmm.
where she's holding a skateboard. It's like, oh, this is going to be very 90s. I don't know if they're trying to capitalize off of the 90s Superboy that had come out a little while earlier or whatever. So I've never read any of this. But Peter David is always a fantastic writer, and Gary Frank always a fantastic artist.
Mm-hmm.
So the two of them together is going to be killer. Yeah, looking
Indeed.
forward to that.
Yeah, and now
And I'm
Gary.
also glad that they jumped all the way to the 90s as well,
Mm.
because the previous Supergirl Finest was her first Silver Age material,
Yep.
which I found very redundant and not
Mm-hmm.
my favorite.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm glad that they're giving us a different era.
I am too. Like it's nice to see them like actually like stick to the oh like we're gonna do like jump from this part to this part, sort of like what we're seeing in Wonder Woman, which we'll get to in a minute. Same with Superman. So it's very nice to see that at least for any version of Cars or L that they are jumping around from one point to another. Super Friends apparently, hello is also has the first material of the Wonder Twins and Gleek. So that's yeah,
Yes, right. Of course.
indeed,
That's good.
indeed another exciting so yeah, was hoping for Peter David next weird '70s college series at some point. Interesting. Most anticipated, according to Foxhound. Um,
Nice.
yeah, this is all '90s, all good. This is yeah, again like I read those first two trades, really enjoyed them, and then DC said we're not printing anymore, but we have them back in, so hopefully they'll be able to finish this out. Good choice on Supergirl. There's yep, those thick trades. I have them on my shelf. They have been collecting dust and wondering where their next part, next book is. But this is the next of those. Um, Peter David imprints is always good. I'm also trying to say, like, how is have you heard of the GoFundMe for Peter David by any chance, Kurtis?
Yeah, because I guess he didn't qualify for his for Medicaid or something like that based on his conditions. So he and his wife are really struggling at the moment for in their finances. Yeah, I'm not sure what their situation is at the moment, but they
Mm.
did restart the old GoFundMe page to try and get a handle on their medical bills. It's too bad. He's in really rough shape.
That's
He needs a
unfortunate.
lot of care now. It's too bad.
For 100%. Yeah, never read the Supergirl. I think this is the perfect opportunity to get into it, Justin. I think you will be wowed by this. That is going to be my advertisement for the poll. Um, Next up, we got Superman, the Invisible Luthor. The Invisible Luthor refers to a story in Superman number 10, if my research recalls that correctly. But we do not
Yeah,
have
so
a.
this is
Yeah.
going to be the follow-up to the other Golden Age Superman volume that we got earlier. So this will be volume two.
Mhm.
The contents are not available. They were not on Penguin Random House, nor were they in the Edelweiss catalog. So we don't know exactly what this is going to be, but it'll most likely have the next batch of Superman and Action Comics issues.
Indeed. So yes, waiting for the collections there, but I still will read the Golden Age stuff. So yeah, very excited to see what comes next there. This one is gonna be a big one for me because I do love myself some war stories and also early Joe Kubert art. This is War. The Big Five arrive, collecting our army at war 54 to 57, GI Combat 44 to 47, Star Spangled War Stories 53 to 56, Black Hawk 108 to 111, Our Fighting Forces 17 through 20, and All American Men of War 41 to 44.
So GI Combat is not quite where Sergeant Rock started, but Sergeant Rock debuted in issue number 68,
Mm-hmm. Somewhere around
I
there.
think. And then he was also in our Army at War starting with issue 87. So this is pre-Sergeant Rock stuff. So I think there's still a case to be made that um, people are wondering, will Sergeant Rock get his own like solo DC Finest? And I think that could still happen. They're just going with the pre-Sergeant Rock issues so far with all of this stuff.
Yeah, I do, and I find that interesting too because like I love seeing the John, like I like war comics, like just me personally, because you get to see different perspectives with how a lot of writers um look at the battles, following a certain viewpoint of whatever character. Garth Ennis read some of my favorites, and I have never read any of this 1957 material. Um, so I think a lot of it will be like a lot of the um, same feelings, I guess. I don't know what the word is, but I'm very excited for this specific comic. Even if Sergeant Rock isn't in it, I'm still excited to see it out.
Yeah. And again, like just like the horror stuff, getting a sampling of all of the war comics of this time is great because none of these titles are going to stand on their own as great sellers. So let's just kind of put them all in one. It'll take longer to get them all out, but that's okay. They need to take their time with the war stuff, I
Completely
think.
agreed. Yeah. Um, I think what we have for the for the entire DC catalog on Very Fine Casa is if James is here. I don't think he's here. I think he's with Jess right now. Um, Tuesday is what we have. I have no idea when the time is because Omar is currently busy doing. He's super busy this weekend. But I'll let you know. I'll let you guys know, or Omar will let you know. Yeah, I find it really cool that DC is collecting this material. Yeah, because I think the closest that we have to something that could stand out on its own is Black Hawk, but I don't think like people are pining for a DC Finest Black Hawk set at all. So it's nice that we get to see them all collected here, um, instead of that. And Jarn also says that I think they learned from the archives that the war comics in their separate titles don't sell as well.
Yeah, right, exactly.
So Very happy with
Except for, with the exception of Sergeant Rock, that might be the only one. So, because it has a name that people will recognize, so they could still do a Sergeant Rock collection. Um, Sergeant Rock was in the team up book.
hmm
There was one issue of where he teams up with Batman, right?
Indeed. And that was a very fun issue. But yeah, I think yeah, Sergeant Rock is the only one, but that might be a completely separate line from this. Might just be the genre book. We might see a DC Finest of Sergeant Rock at some point. We will have to see on that note. And then we also do have, wait, not have the Wonder Woman. Let me see if I can pull that up real quick. Minor apologies.
Pretty sure I sent you that one, right?
You did. I think I just need to refresh this particular part. Let me scroll all the way through. Da, 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 da. There we go. Okay. DC
There
Finest
it is.
Wonder Woman, introducing Wonder Woman from her first adventures in Sensation Comics, 1 through 18, through to her own title, issues 1 through 4, All Star Comics number 8, and Comic Cavalcade 1 through 2.
So this is volume one. I have this material in the paperback of the Golden Age Wonder Woman series, and this is weird stuff, man. This is there's some just bizarre stuff in this book. It was a comic like no other way back in the day. And not all of it's great. It's kind of a hard book to get through, or at least it was for me. But it's always good to see the historical context come back into print.
Yeah, I think Partwork Comics Reader said it best, and I don't want to repeat it. We will get into it, or the story material, I should say, whenever this book comes out. Yeah,
Yeah, next year.
next year. A very creative volume title. I
Yeah,
think.
a bunch of them are like that, like
Mhm,
The Origin of Plastic
mhm,
Man and um, Enter Whoever.
mhm.
Yeah, there's a bunch of titles that are just like so it's something with the person's name in it.
Right. Or even like year one, year two, where it's like there's no like it's not the pitch. It's just it's a particular story that's collected in here. Um,
Yeah.
So yeah, a lot of Golden Age stuff. Oh, this is definitely weird stuff. The reason that I got into some of those issues or read some of those issues on the DC Universe app back a couple of years ago was because Grant Morrison and Yannick Paquette, when they did their Wonder Woman Earth One series, a lot of it was supposedly inspired from the Golden Age material, which I never read. Um, Unfortunately, like when I read through the Golden Age material, I found it to definitely be it's not for me, I'll say, but we're gonna be talking about it next year when this collection comes out. Um, and Yeah, it's definitely some of the weirdest things I think you can read in. But again, context of the '40s, context of William Marston. We are going to get into that when we cover it. Yeah, hopefully next year. Is the dough pie incident in this volume?
Actually, I don't know.
That I do not know. But that is all of the DC finest that we have in for this week. So want to quickly thank not only just thank Kurtis for being here, but also being able to hang out with me on these Fridays, some of my favorite Fridays of the month, some of my favorite days of the month where I just get to sit down, talk about the comics we've read, and share them with you guys. So thank you, Kurtis, for being here. Thank you for everyone for watching. I really appreciate it. I know we really appreciate it as well.
Yeah, and thank you for inviting me back month after month. Couldn't imagine any doing this with anybody else. It's been a blast.
You're too kind, my friend. Before we do leave, because James is not here, do you by any chance, if you can say anything, at least publicly, because we both know that Kurtis does work with Clover Press as one of their editorial staff and the epic people there. We've most recently had the Batman, not the Batman, sorry, but the art of Jorge Jimenez hardcover featuring Batman, Superman, all the other titles that he's worked on. If you can speak to anything there, if you know anything.
Yeah, so Clover Press has been publishing through a licensing deal with Marvel, a bunch of the Marvel art of books with some incredible artists. And so we've now recently got a license with DC to start a DC line as well, and we are kicking it off with Jorge Jimenez, who is one of DC's top artists right
Oh
now.
yeah.
He's super good, just incredible as an artist, and he's been on Batman for 5 years,
Mm-hmm.
and he's done work with Superman and with Justice League, and we're going to be showcasing all of his best work, his best covers and such like that in this book, 219 pages, I think.
Mm.
And we are launching it on Kickstarter, and there will be a bunch of Kickstarter exclusive items like dust jackets and slip cases, and I'm creating a trading card set based on his artwork. So if you are into trading cards, that'll be something cool. And um, and the book itself will hit retail eventually later in the year, but all of these extras are going to be exclusive to this Kickstarter here. So, and that's going to launch on Monday.
Okay, so we got some news from Kurtis here. Thank you to that. I love Jorge. I mean, I've been following his art for I think as long as I think I've been reading DC, and to see him go from Superboy back in the mid 2010s to you are now one of the Batman artists ever, which is a crazy thing to say, but hats off to him. Like I can't wait when that art book drops.
He's a super nice guy as well.
So there we go. That is what Kurtis is working on, and I'm also working on some other videos, folks. Maybe we could see Kurtis back on Tuesday on Very Fine. We are still figuring out the logistics there, but there are a lot of things in the pipeline and the works, and some things we can't wait to share. We'll also be back here to talk about Peacemaker, the Superman family. Jimmy Olsen turns into a giant turtle book, and also
And Batgirl.
yes, the early Cassandra Cain issues. Some of my favorite Batman related stuff in there as well. Yes, hit like, share, please, guys. Like we this is one of my favorite times of the month. If you could tell more people, we all just chill, talk about comics. Really would appreciate it. But no, thank you guys. See, look at that. Jar knows what's up. There are no strikes here.
Thanks.
But
You weren't
yes,
paying close enough attention.
indeed. Yeah,